Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of D3, Dominici's Discussions and Debates. I'm your host, Dominici Lapierre. Today is November 4th, 2025, and joining me today is Professor Sam Davis-Boyd of Azusa, California. Davis-Boyd is an accomplished documentary and short film director and writer, LGBTQ plus rights activist, body positivity advocate, and professor of communications here at VTSU Castleton. Thank you so much for being here with me in my first live episode, Professor.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me here, Dom.
So, to start, you're from California, which is a lot different than Vermont. So, where do you prefer? Do you like living here in Vermont, or do you get homesick sometimes? What are you at in that status?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been in Vermont now for, I believe, I just finished my 6th academic year, so about 7 years. And I absolutely love it here in Vermont. I feel like I've found a really wonderful community and group of people that I connect with. I'm originally from Southern California, as you found from Azusa, California, which is in Southern California. And I grew up in Southern California in Azusa and then moved to a small mountain town, still in Southern California when I was about 15. Smaller. I know students here say like, oh, Castleton's so small, but the town I grew up in, the mountain town that I grew up in, had no grocery store, no gas station. Wow. It was very small. It was a lot smaller than this.
No gas station.
Nope, no gas station. It was 30 minutes from anything. I grew up in California, but I spent a lot of time in like small rural communities in California and also larger communities, right? Like I lived in San Francisco or San Jose for several years. So long story short, I love California. I specifically love Northern California. I love the weather. And the redwood forest is just something you can't. It's not here. Not to say that Vermont's not beautiful, but I do miss the redwood forest. But I do absolutely love Vermont and have loved it ever since I moved here. Me and my wife both love it here.
So Vermont gets 1 point there.
I would say so. I definitely miss my redwoods, but I love being here. So.
Well, it's kind of weird you say that because I feel like when a lot of people think of California, it's like you said, LA, San Francisco. Mm-hmm. They don't really think of like the boondocks, the rural, empty forest and I don't know if that's because of the media or because it's, LA is all you ever really hear about, especially because of Hollywood and things like that, like very socially popular areas. But I think that's really interesting that you say that. Would you say it was very similar? The area was socially similar?
I think it depends on the community. I lived in multiple different communities, from childhood through, college and graduate school. I think there were some areas that were more similar to this and some that were a lot different. Again, talking about like San Francisco, San Jose area is very different from here. But, but living in some small Northern California towns, like Lakeport, I definitely think there's some similarities in terms of people, in terms of the different kind of resources available or not available. Absolutely.
Doing research, I found that you were pretty involved in your community as a child. You did things like volleyball, swimming, you played clarinet. So to start, which of those, 3 main activities were your favorite, and which of them would you say you miss the most?
It's an excellent question. You did really good research. I don't know where you found this information.
I really try. I scrounge.
Yeah. That's a great question. So, I loved all of them for different reasons. I would say the one I was worst at was swimming. I was never very fast. I, swam competitively, I'm competitively in quotation marks. I was on a swim team, but was not very good, but I had fun. I loved, being in the water as a child. I still do. I would say volleyball was something I really enjoyed, and I've been interested in trying to find like another way to do that. My younger sister just recently joined like an adult league, and I was like, oh, I don't know if there's something like that around here. I haven't looked.
That'd be awesome.
But yeah, I really doubt I'd be any good. I have not played in a very long time, but I did really love volleyball. And clarinet was something. Clarinet was not something I wanted to play. In California, in Southern California, when I was growing up, they had music programs that started in elementary school. And I remember going to it was like, bring your kids and your parents to like, the program was going to like talk about what the program's like and talk about the different opportunities. And I remember being there and I was like, I really want to play the flute. That was the instrument I wanted to play as a child. And when the person was giving the presentation, my mom is there with me. The person's like, and people that play the flute have to have a lot of patience. And my mom turned and looked at me and she's like, you're not playing the flute. And so I never got to play the flute because my mom was like, you're not patient enough for this, which she's not wrong. I probably was not. And so I did clarinet instead and absolutely loved it. I played, that's 6 years, something like that. And, stopped by the time I started high school. My high school didn't have a music program, but through junior high and, was in the wind ensemble.
This is a small high school. Wow.
Yes, despite the fact that I grew up in Southern California, I went to a small college prep high school that we had 100 students in my graduating class.
Mine was only 90. I'm from upstate New York, so we were pretty small.
Yeah.
So you put, to summarize the question, would you say clarinet is your favorite?
I would say clarinet is the one I look back on most fondly. Okay. I think I struggled with it for a long time, like trying to, learning a new instrument. It's hard. But eventually I think I spent so much time and so many hours every day working on it that I eventually like made my way up to first chair, which was just such an accomplishment for me at the time.
Like first string for...
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I got to like sit in the front row with all the other first chairs. It was very exciting, as a junior hire.
Yeah. To make you feel better, during COVID, I was in 9th grade. And as you know, I'm a wrestler. I've participated in wrestling since I was in 3rd grade. And I've never been a strong swimmer. So, they didn't have wrestling during the winter that year. It was still kind of on the fence if we were going to have it. So I joined swimming. I did football, and then I went over to swimming. Or I'm trying to think. That's wrong. I did cross country that year.
Okay.
Went from cross country, which I had never done because I did football, and then I went over to swimming, and I was absolutely horrendous. Like, I was bad. Yeah. And it was weird because I was one of the better wrestlers in my program, and people knew that I was coming up and I was getting better. And then I was thrown into this whole new dimension. Yeah. And I was terrible. So I kind of feel you there. But it was fun. I really look back fondly on the experience. Yeah. I think it was good to get me out of my comfort zone.
For sure.
Luckily, though, they did bring back wrestling in the spring. Okay. And I ended up doing cross-country, swimming, outdoor track, and wrestling in 1 year.
That's a lot.
And I was a little 9th grader who hadn't done anything for a year and a half during lockdown. So that was rough. That was rough.
Yeah, wow.
But no, I love that sport. I always tell people that swimming is one of the hardest things you can do. It is so good for your health.
It is.
I always swear by swimming.
Yeah.
And going back, you know which one's your favorite. Which would you say you were the best at? Clarinet, you said you were first chair.
Yeah, I'd probably say clarinet. I mean, volleyball, I think I was decent at. I was a setter on my team for many years, and I definitely enjoyed that. And it was a community, league thing that I was involved with as a child, but I definitely had a lot of fun. Again, my high school didn't have sports, so I wasn't involved through high school like many people. So yeah, I'd probably say clarinet.
And I did a little reading up, and you have 3 siblings, I believe, but I didn't mark their names down because I wanted to let you. You said 2?
I got 2 siblings.
Oh, okay. You were the third one.
I'm the third one.
Okay. If you want to elaborate, what are they doing? Where are they at now? And are you guys still close? What's the situation there?
Yeah. So I have 2 sisters. I'm the middle child, so I have a younger sister.
Same here.
And an older sister. Awesome. So also a middle child.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. You know the vibe. You know what it is.
I do. And my youngest sister lives near Portland, Oregon, just outside of Portland, Oregon, and is working for a university. She does community health things. And then my older sister lives in Southern California and for a long time worked with my father. My dad had his own business. He was basically a dispatcher for trucks, and so was dealing all the time with truck drivers and their companies and getting stuff from point A to point B. And so my sister was in business with my dad. My dad passed away several years ago, almost 5.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And shortly, after my dad passed away, my sister, made the move to close the business and is now a special education teacher.
My next question was actually about your parents. How's your mother doing?
She's doing okay. Yeah.
Is she still back in California?
She's still back in California, and she's been working a lot. She's like a home healthcare provider.
Okay, that's awesome. Very necessary field.
Yeah. Not healthcare. Home care provider. I'd probably take out the healthcare. She's not a nurse, but she goes and, she's very specifically like, a lot of the work she's doing right now is like in the town that she lives in.
Do you mean going in and helping like elderly people day-to-day tasks?
Yeah. So
very noble field.
Some of it is, helping administer medicine. Some of it's just sitting and being there with people as, they're whatever stage they are in life. Some of it is literally like going in and helping, people clean their homes. Again, people, usually elderly people that, need that kind of additional support. So yeah, she wasn't doing that. She started doing that after my dad passed away because we had to have somebody come into our home to help. My dad was really sick during the pandemic and there was just additional support that was needed in the house. And so after my dad passed, my mom got into this line of work. She was really...
So that was what kind of inspired her to go
It
on.
was.
That's very beautiful.
Yeah, she'd
That's
never done it
beautiful.
before. Yeah.
I could be wrong. I read something recently, and I'm believing it's Japan. They just started hiring bodybuilders to go do that. And the ideology was to kind of flip the stigma about, personal health care and home care being a feminine thing.
Yeah.
And there's these pictures of these big jacked men like carrying these old women around, brushing their teeth, and it's so funny because they're like their bonuses, they're giving them free memberships to local gyms. They're giving them protein shakes and I'm serious.
Okay.
It's awesome. And they're getting they're boosting the numbers because they're having a deficit of employees in the field.
Yeah.
And they're getting these bodybuilders to come do it, because they're able-bodied. They're able to pick the people up and help them.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. I just read up on that the other day.
That's very interesting. I haven't seen that, but like you said, like kind of flipping the script on the gender expectations for certain jobs. I really, that's interesting.
Do you know Aurelia Larkey's, the
Yes, I do.
SGA president?
I do.
I did one of my pilot episodes I was telling you about with her, and we had a big talk about that, gender expectations in certain fields. And how we had a male therapist here, I believe, in the Wellness Center, Duncan. I never met him, but we did have one. And he recently retired, and now they're having trouble because some of the guys that were coming in for therapy before are now more apprehensive.
Yeah.
So that was something me and her talked about. I think that's a great point to touch on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know why, because I always thought it was so cool to have a male teacher or to have you know what I mean? Or to see a female in a gym and working. I always thought those were... I never thought that was like a weird thing. That never computed in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, we're thinking about, certain jobs, certain industries, right, are more male or female dominated depending on where you look, right? I work in filmmaking. It's a very male-dominated field.
Absolutely.
So you can find that in many industries, for sure.
Moving forward with some of my notes, you attended San Francisco State University.
I did.
It is my understanding you have a Master in Fine Arts in Cinema.
I do.
What was your time like, studying that, getting that degree?
Yeah, I absolutely loved my time in San Francisco. So I already had a Bachelor's of Arts in filmmaking from my undergraduate degree, and knew while I was in undergrad that I wanted to teach at the college level. I knew I did not want to teach, K through 12. It's just not something that was speaking to me, especially at the time. And knew I wanted to go on and teach at the college level, which meant I needed to get a graduate degree.
Here we are.
And so, that's what kind of led me to pursuing my MFA. And San Francisco was for many reasons. It's a place I'd always wanted to live. You know, I applied to other schools, but actually several in San Francisco, but there were other schools on my list. And, I got into a couple schools, but San Francisco State was, had a very long, strong history of documentary filmmaking, of experimental filmmaking, both of these things that really intrigued me and was something I wanted to explore more. And yeah, I absolutely loved my time in San Francisco.
You also went to, correct me if I butcher the pronunciation, Humboldt State University.
Yeah.
And I had some trouble finding it. I could be wrong. Was it something in graphic design?
Oh, no. So, yeah, it was Humboldt State University, which is no longer called Humboldt State University. Within the last couple of years, they're now a STEM school. So I think they're a Humboldt.
I think that's why I couldn't find anything.
I think it's now Humboldt Polytechnic University or something like that.
Okay.
So it's part of the CSU system. Or no, it's no longer part of the CSU system in California. It isn't a polytechnic. But no, I studied filmmaking.
Okay.
So I have an undergraduate degree in filmmaking and my master's degree also in filmmaking, or cinema as the school calls it.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I also read that the way it was put when I was doing research was you called a ton of places and VTSU Castleton called you back and kind of stuck out to you. Did you have an idea that you wanted to end up in New England or the Northeast, or did you want to go somewhere else and you just got the call here? How'd you end up in the middle of Castleton, Vermont?
Yeah, so I get that question all the time when people hear I'm from California. They're like, what led you here? First of all, there's actually quite a few faculty member on this campus from California. Dr. Talbot is also from California.
Really? I didn't know this.
Yeah. But when I was in graduate school, I, again, knew I wanted to teach at the college level, started applying to schools or to universities, basically across the U.S. I even looked at some abroad because I was open to moving abroad as well, I was married. Was married at the time. So it was not just a me decision, it was an us decision, right? Like, what places could me and my wife see us living? So I kind of applied widely. There were definitely certain states that I, for various reasons, didn't want to live in, so I didn't apply to those ones. But New England, there were quite a few states in New England where I was like, I could see myself living here. I like cooler weather. I've always wanted to come out here, but I did a Zoom interview with the first stage for this job, and got a call back for a second interview, which is where you fly out and you do a whole day. It's a whole day ordeal interview, and just absolutely fell in love with the community, with the people here.
Who did you meet with staff-wise? Who brought you through the...
Yeah, so Dr. Talbot, Michael Talbot,
okay.
Is the chair of the department and was kind of leading the search committee, but he was on the search committee. Professor David Blow was on the search committee. Bill DeForest.
He's a cool guy too.
Yeah, and a couple other staff members and a dean that's no longer works here, but because this was when we were Castleton.
Okay.
And yeah, so and you meet with students as well. You do a teaching demo. It's it's a whole day of getting to meet lots of different people and hear from lots of different people. And they, it's not just specific to getting hired in academia. They kind of put you through the ringer. They want to make sure it's a good fit. And so, yeah, I just absolutely loved getting to hear about what the students were up to here. I love that, when I was hired here, it was Castleton University, just so student-centered. And that's what drew me to teaching was, working with students and getting to see their creative ideas come to life.
Since you've been to Vermont,
yeah,
you've definitely set up, you haven't just came here and been a professor. You set up a very involved life in your community. I read that you were, I don't know, this was a while ago, so you could have been promoted or pulled out or whatever, but you're the co-president of the board of Rutland County Pride. I read it. Is that still correct? Still where you're at?
That is still correct,
What kind of things do you do there? What does that entail?
Yeah, so I've been with the nonprofit organization Rutland County Pride since shortly after it was created. We've been around, I think, 4 years now.
Okay.
Is that correct?
That's still pretty useful.
Yeah, almost 4 years. Yeah, we're a newer organization. And I have been the co-board president I'm in my third year of doing co-board. Like I'm halfway through the third year. So, 2.5-ish years of being a co-board president. And, it's been really wonderful to find, queer community here. I know when my wife and I first moved here, we looked for different meetups and different groups and weren't really, finding things. The other thing is I started the semester before the pandemic started, right? So, everything kind of shut down as it did across the US and the world. So, after coming out of the pandemic, really starting to, look more for, community here. And, I saw a call, I think on Facebook or Instagram for, board members for a new Pride organization. I was like, yes, wow. Sign me up. So I, attended the first meeting and got voted in onto the board and spent the first year I was on the board. I was the co-lead for creating the Rutland County Pride Festival that we do. So we've done 3 Pride festivals in Rutland, in downtown Rutland in the summer and June in the month during Pride Month. So I co-led the first 2 years. Last year I was also heavily involved, and each year the festival has exponentially grown. The first year we were on one street on Center Street in downtown Rutland. The second year we expanded to a second street, and last year we were on 3 streets in downtown Rutland and had over 5,000 attendees throughout the day. It's a big ordeal.
Is that all across Vermont? You get people from New England, or how far what's the furthest you think you've...
I think we had a performer, not this past year, but the year before from Florida. I know.
Wow,
yeah, we've had people that, used to live in Vermont or in Rutland that, came back because they saw there was a Pride Festival coming. I think it speaks to, people that love this community, and seeing, a thriving, Pride Center, I think was important for a lot of people.
I think that's really something that I kind of enjoy about our campus is, obviously we're in the middle of Vermont. There's going to be a lot of ignorance, and I see it a good amount. But the thing is, like, my brother came here many, many years ago. My brother Chance, and no one would expect it. But I don't know how he ended up there. But he was on Spectrum Pride, and he is a heterosexual male. But a lot of his friends, when he first got here, were, LGBT people. Like, a lot of them, like, his best friend for his whole freshman year of college was a lesbian named Pete. And the thing was, he didn't have that many diverse friends in high school, So I do think that VTSU Castleton, even back when it was Castleton State College or Castleton University, seems to have a really good culture of diversity. We have like 65 plus countries represented this semester.
Yes.
Something along those lines I read for, foreign exchange students and stuff. I have a class with some guys from Austria, Andorra, countries I haven't heard of, and then I talk to them. So I think that's something we do a pretty good job of here in this area, is creating that kind of, inclusivity and, cultivating that kind of environment. And I'll just tell a quick personal story. I was in 5th grade, and I had a friend named Ethan, right? And, yeah, we were young, but he was this tall ginger kid. He's a drag queen now, and he's pretty good at it. But I remember, I don't know if we were early middle school or if it was still 5th grade, but we were reaching the age where people are hitting puberty. And he came out as a homosexual, but he didn't tell me. He told everyone else. Like, a ton of people knew, and I heard them talking about it one day. And I was like, are you serious? Are you messing with me? Ethan's gay? And I went up to him, and I'm like, you're gay? You didn't tell me? And he looked at me, and he's like, yeah, it's not a big deal. And I was like, yes, it's a big deal. You didn't tell me. You told everyone else and not me. And then he looked at me, and he was like, you know what? You're right. I didn't think we'd be friends anymore if I told you. And I was like, I wasn't even angry that he was gay. I was angry because I was like, me and you are supposed to be really good buddies.
Yeah.
And you're telling all these girls, and you're not telling me. And that kind of struck me weird because I was so young, And at that point in your life, to a lot of kids, gay is just an insult. Gay's just a joke, And I kind of thought on that, like, And I was a chronically online kid. I played a lot of video games. And there were people whose demeanor switched up when they learned I was black. They would make way more black jokes than they did before.
Yeah.
And that always just stuck with me. You know what I mean? Like, you thought that my opinion would change of you as a person, and my perception of our positive memories would alter because of who you find attractive.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't even mad anymore. I just told him, like, no, man, I still love you. Like,
Yeah.
that's such a silly reason. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, a lot of people, I think if people could tell, it's probably a good thing they can't tell who around them is closeted or who around them has had homosexual experiences in their life. I think there would be a lot less ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Because I think they would see how much. And it's one of those things where homosexuality has been found in cavemen. Like, we have skeletons of cavemen cuddling.
Yeah.
And there's like, I could be incorrect, but I think it's like dolphins participate in homosexual activity, like certain animals.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just such a common thing, even in nature, you know. And I think that's just, it's never clicked with me, the like offense to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a lot of things. I think it's misinformation, maybe miseducation. I think religion plays a factor for many people on why they have problems with it because of, in various religions.
100%.
So I think it's a lot of things.
And I won't get too far into it, but this is a fact. The word gay or homosexual was not in the Bible until the 1960s or 50s, I believe, when translations happened.
Yeah.
So I believe the word that it replaced, the meaning was something like pervert or pedophile. It was not gay. The word in there was not homosexual. It was not gay when it got plugged in. But then you have these people going through, and I try to be careful with my wording because I do really think religion is a beautiful thing. I think faith is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything,
Right? No, I agree.
I just know that it is a factor.
I'm personally an atheist, but I think it's a beautiful thing. But I think when you move through this system in certain places of such harsh indoctrination without questioning, I think that's a dangerous thing. To face a set of ideals with no questioning, with like blind subservience, you know what I mean? And then you just see it and it's like, okay. And I just wrote a piece in the Spartan. I just wrote my first editorial for the Spartan on,
congrats.
Thank you, on identity politics. And I touched a little on some of the stuff that I believe Charlie Kirk said that was bad. And I think that kind of feeds into that whole culture we have going on in America. Is like, it's easier to just look at someone and be like, you're gay and I'm straight, than to look at the underlying issue or like, the deeper stuff. And I think it's easier to look at someone and be like, you're a Muslim. And I like, today on Instagram I was scrolling and a guy from my hometown posted something like Islamophobia is not real. No Muslim people are being killed in the world. Islamophobia is just a term for a rational reaction to Muslims killing everybody else. And I was like, dude, is saying that much harder than just using critical thinking and like really analyzing the issue? Is it that much easier to just put something like that out in the air and then check the box off?
Yeah.
Sorry to get deep, but I do.
No, you're fine. I think a lot of this feeds into social media and the space we are currently, and fake news and AI generated things, right? Like, I think there's so many facets to this and the misinformation that's being spread online, right?
100%.
When so many of these, when we're talking about identity, specifically for me, like, being a queer white woman, right? Like, my queerness is just is one part of many of me, right? It's not the only thing. And the fact that, people glom onto that one part to determine their opinion about somebody, right?
Absolutely. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I'm, I don't know if you know the rapper Logic. I try not to say it in such a way, but like when he gets on air and he's like, I'm biracial, like I try not to just be like, throw that out there all the time. But my mother's white and my father is from Trinidad. He's black. And like, it's weird to me because I don't want to say it's a one-way issue, man. I've had times like my mother has gotten more slack going into my father's community than my father has going to upstate New York. And I remember one time, I think I was in middle school. I wasn't crazy young, but I was still young enough to be playing on a playground. So I had to be at least 11, 12. I was on a playground and there was a kid way younger than me. This guy had to be like 9 or 10, maybe 11, but he was significantly younger than me at the time, right? and me and my cousin were just playing, and my cousin, I believe, is fully black, but he's lighter than me. He's he kind of looks like a Dominican type of brown. And this kid looks at me and he's calling me cracker. And he's like, what are you, white? Because I don't know if he saw, I don't know if they could just tell by my type of brown. I don't know if they saw my mom. I don't remember too much specifics. But they were looking at me and they were calling me cracker and stuff. And they were like, what are you, white? You trying to play with us, white boy? And I was like, what? I'm just trying to play on the park, man. What are we doing here? And that was weird for me because I had only ever seen or experienced hostility. Any hostility that I had received that I didn't deserve had been on account of my blackness.
Yeah.
I had never received hostility on account of my whiteness. Yeah. And this is going to sound crazy, but I think I'm really thankful for it now. Because now I kind of I think it showed me boom, this is not a Caucasian problem. This is not a white person problem. And, you kind of border becoming what you hate when you get on air and you're like, we got to defend ourselves. These white people are out to get us. Then what's the difference between you and the other guy? So I'm not here to say that it's either side issue, because everyone has bias, and I've known gay people that make generalizations about straight people. Yeah. So I just want to specify I'm not making generalizations, but 100%. I think social media feeds that fire and just pours gas onto it. And I think AI is such a terrible thing. I have a second cousin named Jeff Teague. I say he's my second cousin. He is my second cousin, but I've never met him. He's in the NBA, and cool fact, he was on a team that I think won the championship one year. I'm not sure. He plays for the Timberwolves, I think. But they had an AI clip of him cussing out a famous streamer. I don't know if it was I Show Speed or who it was. And then the NBA called him. And he was like, that is not me. I was chilling at home watching TV. And they thought it was him actually cussing out this streamer saying inappropriate stuff. So, you know what I mean? I think AI just makes that so much worse when you can fake hate crime videos and stuff. Yeah. And it looks so realistic now. You don't know. You cut out the little Sora AI logo and you don't know what's real and what's not anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely getting more realistic. I'll give you that.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, you're fine.
But I definitely I wanted to move into your filmmaking. Like I told you earlier, I watched some of your films. I really like them. And I will list a few of your awards. For the record, I have 15 here. I have 15 different awards listed for you here. So you're very accomplished in your field. Some that kind of stuck out to me was the 2019 Queer Cinema Project recipient of the Barbara Hammer Award. The 2016 Best LGBT Short Film at the Next Generation of Filmmakers Film Festival. 2016 Best Documentary Film at the Pass Area International Film Festival in Banning, California. And you were selected for so many others. And then one that really stuck out to me was 2016 Special Mentions at the Filmmaker International Film Festival all the way in Marbella, Spain. And I watched The Body I Live In. And my mother and my little sister, I have a lot of family members that are overweight, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd say enjoyed is the word. It really intrigued me. I thought it was very powerful. It obviously hit me in my heart. It's kind of I don't want to say tough, but it is kind of a tough watch. You're very vulnerable, which I appreciate. And it kind of took me aback because I saw the thumbnail of you lifting up the shirt in the mirror, and then I read the title, and it kind of gives it away. You don't hide anything about it. You're very open about what it's going to be about. And then you sit down and you watch it, and I saw you talking to your mother and your father, and I think the opening with you and your now wife, then fiance, Jenny, in the kitchen with the cookies and all that, it was very beautiful. I will tell you that. It was very beautiful. I did enjoy watching it. Tugged on my heartstrings a little, and I just, what was that like? What was making that like?
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all. So that film came out of, I started my MFA working towards my MFA at San Francisco State. And the first thing you do in your first year in the cinema program there for your graduate degree is you work on what's called your first year film. You spend the entire year working on this one film. They do this to, not all MFA programs are like this, but this one is set up this way. You spend the first year working on this project, whatever you want it to be, and that's supposed to help you work towards your thesis. And so this was, I spent a long time trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do a documentary. I teach fiction filmmaking, but it's not my favorite thing to make personally. I like, telling stories. I was originally interested in journalism when I started my undergraduate degree, and that kind of led me to documentary filmmaking. And so for this project, I spent a long time trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I like telling other people's stories and hearing other people's stories. And, for me, as somebody that likes digging into people's stories, especially like, having people share vulnerable things, it feels to me as a creative person unfair to ask that of other people if I'm not willing to do it myself. And so this was kind of one of the things that I could have made. And, it's uncomfortable putting yourself on camera. I think it made me a better filmmaker, being able to put myself on camera, be vulnerable with the camera. And some of it's performative, right? Like you're on the camera. I was making this about myself, but I am sharing real things and real insecurities and things that I've gone through, some of the things I've gone through. And yeah, it was, I don't know if fun is the right word I would call for this, because, there were tears and, it was really awkward showing it. I still cringe when I have had, done screenings of it. It's,
It's very intimate.
It's very intimate. So yeah, I'm happy I made it. Like I said, I do think it made me a better filmmaker because I can put myself, even if, I'm not the person obviously that I'm interviewing, but I, have been in that position. I've shared very vulnerable things, and I think it's made me a more empathetic filmmaker.
That's awesome. I watched all the stuff on your Vimeo. I watched your, I don't know if it was 2019 or 2020, Rutland Pride.
Oh, yeah.
Donna's Disco. I didn't really know. I didn't keep up much with that. I was taking notes while I had that playing on another screen, so I didn't keep up too much with that, but I did like those. I thought it was fun. Some little fun promos. Yeah,
those are just some promo videos that I've done for Rutland County Pride. So the Donna's Disco was, the Pride Center does Fierce Fridays, which is like bi-monthly, so every other month, drag show. And so Donna's Disco was the theme for one of the year or one of the shows. Donna Rhea is one of the drag queens. Yeah.
What's her name?
Donna Rhea.
Oh, okay. Oh, word? Okay. That one took me a second.
Yeah.
You also had the short film Silence, which I really liked.
Oh, yeah.
That one, I don't want to say I didn't like the ending, because I did like the ending. It's weird. I liked it, but I didn't, because it obviously is bad. It's a bad ending.
Yeah, it's not great.
But it's like the realistic endings, and I think when I watch a movie or when I see a piece of media or a video game and it ends with like, the main character dying, or it ends with like the bad guy getting away, it kind of strikes me as much more powerful than had the main, I'll try not to spoil it for people, but had the main character made it to the police station. I think it was far more powerful when I heard the ringing, because it didn't immediately register the implications of the ringing. And then after like 20-30 seconds, straight to the black, straight to the credits, the special thanks, and I realized like, wow, she did not get away. And that just like, I thought it was very good. I thought you made it really well. I think the fake out with the first guy and then the real villain, and I thought it was great. I really enjoy watching your work. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't know what to expect going in, but I thought they were a fun time, regardless. You know what I mean? Yeah. As fun as these things can be, as fun as things at this level can be.
Yeah, it's more, kind of horror. I wouldn't call it dystopian, but horror, right? And so that was. I didn't make that film. I wrote the script for that film.
Oh, okay.
So I spent a year studying abroad in England and was in some junior and senior classes while I was there. And One of the seniors was working on his thesis and wanted a scriptwriter because it was not his expertise or his strength. So I, wrote several scripts, and he liked this one
What
the
was his
best.
name?
Max.
Max?
Yeah,
Okay.
so he was believe he was the cinematographer and the director on that film. So I wrote the script, and I also did sound recording for the film. But
If you ever hear this, you did a great job, Max.
yes,
You did a great job. And I read that you have some current projects in the works. I don't know if that's still up to date on your bio for the school and stuff, but it was something about the way it was described was marginalized rural bodies. And if you want to elaborate on that, what's going on over there?
Yeah. I always have a couple things going on. How long they're going to take me to finish, I don't know. So one of the things when I first moved here that I was very interested in, I'm so involved with Rutland County Pride, and I've been very intrigued with how queer people in rural communities find community, because I think it's just so different than living in a San Francisco, living in a San Diego, right? Like these big
There's
metro.
not gay bars. There's not
Exactly.
places. There's not safe havens.
Yeah, and I think the way that queer people in smaller rural communities find connection it's a different process. And so that's, being kind of on this inside of seeing this Pride Center come together, seeing queer people come from across Rutland County and beyond to flock to it because they're so excited is just, it's just been a different process. So that's something I've been interested in. I have lots of footage. When it will come together, I have no idea. I have several other projects in the works, but
That is a weird dynamic, and I mean, I bring up Ethan again, but he was a lot of my exposure because, I mean, obviously there's probably more gay kids, but he was the only one in my area that was very open, posted his drag, very, I don't know if I, flamboyant. He was very openly himself, and I really kind of admired that, and we had so many redneck kids that hassled him, and I remember I got into arguments with them all the time, and I thought I kind of got lucky because there was a fair amount of black kids in my area, but it's what do you do when and the thing is, he probably knew the other gay kids, he probably had romantic relationships and was respectful enough not to out people, which is a common thing. Excuse me. And, I always kind of admired him for that. Because you're really, and I've asked myself this question. Would I hide that I'm black from certain people if I could? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've had times, and I'm not saying it's every time, but I've seen times elderly white people have been really respectful to someone in front of me and just complete demeanor switch.
Yeah.
And it's you know what? When I was younger, I was kind of a jerk. I was kind of an annoying kid. So a lot of the time, it was my personality. But you don't, when you're a stranger, when I'm in the line at the store, you don't know me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I asked myself, if I could, would I switch back and forth with certain people? Would I put on the incognito mode and not show them my melanin, I guess? And I just think that's a really kind of brave step to take. To have the option to just live complacent and not happy and safe, or at least safer, and, get hassled less, because it's just a fact, get hassled less, not deal with all that, or take that step where you're okay, I'm going to come out as a homosexual, I'm going to own whatever happens, hell or high water, I'm me. That to me is so admirable because you don't have to do it. Many don't. And to make, like I said, to make that step and, not to get too personal, what was that like for you, if you don't mind sharing? If you don't want to share, just obviously say that. But about what age, what was that process like for you where you were I am attracted to women?
Great questions. Yeah, I think, back to your point about talking about, the choice to come out or not to come out. Like you said, in some instances, it's a safety thing, right? Choosing not to.
Especially in a rural area.
Yeah, or in certain states, right? Where protections are just not there. And I think there's the other side of this, that even if you live in those areas or in those spaces and you're not sure, right? You're hiding feeling like you're hiding an entire part of yourself, I think becomes suffocating for many, many queer people after a while. For me, I came out when I was in college. You know, I think that's really when I discovered who I was. You know, I think there's many different reasons why it took me, you know, I still think I was young when I came out, but, you know, compared to maybe some of my peers that, you know, were out in high school and things like that. And, you know, it's nerve-wracking coming out. I mean, it's different for every, you know, LGBTQ plus person. I think for me, I was unsure how my family would react. I had some friends that I was unsure of how they would react. And I am very lucky in that a majority of the people that I came out to, that there were no issues. Did I lose friendships? I absolutely did. You know, friendships that I'd had since a child, you know, I was like 5 years old, like, you know, but.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It is what it is.
I mean,
I'm sorry to hear that too.
That, you know?
Yeah, it was not something I wanted in my life. You know,
100%.
Yeah. So,
I tell people all the time, I'm not gay, but if I tell people, like, I understand crazy jokes, I get, like, people are gonna say things, but I tell people, if you legitimately would not be friends with someone because they are a homosexual, I don't want to be your friend. I stand on that, and yeah. I know many of my friends and, you know, probably my wrestling teammates, and I posted it on my story, so I'm hoping I got a few friends from back home listening, and I really do stand on that as a man, you know, like,
yeah.
If something like that could make a legitimate difference in your perception of them, then change your perception of me as well.
Yeah.
And I think that it doesn't mean that I'm instantly homosexual. I'm just a person who tries not to be an asshole.
Yeah, you're somebody that's empathetic and understands that many people have many different identities, right? Like
100%.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I don't know, like, especially in gay media, like, when I saw Brokeback, I didn't watch Brokeback Mountain, but everyone knows what it is. Mm-hmm. Like, especially with, you know, Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal. Mm-hmm. They're such A-list actors. Mm-hmm. But, like, when I was younger, I didn't watch the whole movie, but there was a film called Blue is the Warmest Color. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
And I remember, I was young. I probably should not be airing this out. My family, you know, I hope my mom doesn't have any more kids. She's never going to let them touch the internet again because of me. But I remember watching a part of the movie. Mm-hmm. Funny enough, I stopped before any of the sex scenes happened. Mm-hmm. But I remember watching the movie, and I was like, these two girls are dating. Mm-hmm. These two girls are not just best friends. And I didn't mind the movie. You know, I thought it was okay what I watched. I mean, I was obviously a little kid, so I went over to something more stimulating and bright and stupid. Yeah. I didn't stick with it.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing, and my only real thought wasn't like, oh my God, they're gay. I always thought the girl's hair was kind of cool. The one with blue hair, I really liked her haircut as a kid. I was like, fair. That's kind of cool. And I will say, I do really like your hair. If I do ever dye my hair, I don't know if I will, because my texture hair, when you bleach it, you take a lot of risks messing it up.
Yeah.
If I could 100% dye my hair and know I wasn't going to cook it, I would definitely do it like yours. That shade of red.
Thanks.
Every time I play like a fantasy RPG game or like a character creator video game, I always make my exact face and body, and I just put red on the hair. Nice. I don't know why. I don't know why, but that's always just what I've gravitated towards. Yeah. I've always thought that was... I had to say that before we finish this.
I appreciate that.
I always have really liked that. But, like, it's weird because I imagine when you were younger, there probably wasn't a lot of that in the media. Can you think for a drawback on anything that you saw, or books or anything like that, you know, popular media that kind of stuck out to you that was LGBT centric or focused?
That is a fantastic question. Not that I can immediately think of. Well, that's not true. So I will say, you know, I grew up very religious for a time. You know, and then my religious views have changed since then, and part of that does have to do with my queerness. Part of that is for other reasons. So in terms of like the type of media that I was surrounded by was not necessarily media that was like, you know, full of queer people. I think also, you know, we've come a really long way in terms of LGBT plus media.
100%.
The kind of, I'm sure there were other things. The one that's immediately coming to mind, and is, I think there's lots you can talk about, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer from the 90s through early 2000s. It's very campy. It's, vampires. One of the characters was. Oh, yeah. Okay. And so I think that for a lot of people was like...
That was a deep show. That show hit a lot of marks.
It did. I mean, there's definitely problems with it. It's a fun rewatch. I mean, it's very campy and over the top, but it's, I think for a certain generation, like that was, at least in terms of like lesbian representation, was definitely one of the earlier ones. People I know also go to like, Xena the Warrior Princess, and kind of the subtext around relationships in that show, the L word, right? Like there's a lot of, things from the 90s and early 2000s that, I think people point to as like, this was the thing. And I would say that there's problems with all of those, but, at the time was so, groundbreaking. Yeah.
That's a good pull. That show had a lot. I remember there was an episode with a guy, and he was in the school watchtower with a gun.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes up, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Because they were alluding that it was a school shooter.
Yes.
And he was like, "No, I'm here. This gun is for me. I'm killing myself."
Yeah.
And I remember that. Like, I've seen that when I was younger, and I was like, wow. Like,
yeah.
Especially, like you said, at the time, they were really, really, like, sending it. They weren't holding many punches in that show.
No, it was definitely...
And especially for such a little silly vampire hunting show, like...
Yes.
We're really getting into it, I guess. I mean, that's awesome to see. That's not a bad thing. It's just, like I said, not what you expect from the little silly vampire hunting show with the blonde girl. Yeah,
no, it was, definitely a favorite. It's one of the first things me and my wife bonded over because she's a huge fan. So, I look back on that fondly, but, also keeping in mind that the creator of that show was kind of not a great person. So, as we've found out over the,
I try to separate artists from art, especially nowadays when it seems like every good piece of art has some crazy...
Yeah, but I think even, like, talking about, like, the creator, Joss Whedon, and, like, what was happening on that set with actors, right? Like, and the way that women were being treated on that show. So...
Not good.
No, definitely not. But... Again, at the time, the show itself, I think, was, in terms of representation for queerness, it was very fun, groundbreaking.
You mentioned your wife again. If you don't mind me asking, how'd you meet your wife?
Met her online.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Was that like kind of like a love at first sight thing, or you steadily knew her for a long time and then connected?
We met, we started talking. I was still abroad. I was close to finishing up my, my year abroad and was going to be coming back home, and had realized that like all my friends from when I was back in the States from my college had graduated.
Where were you again? What country?
I spent a year in England.
Okay, so you were far.
Yeah, and all my friends back home had graduated from my, my undergrad program, and I was like, this was also the time that I was starting to come out, so really was just looking for like, friends and potentially queer friends, and met, Jenny online, and, instantly kind of clicked, and I came back into the States and we met in person. I think things were, as they can be sometimes in queer relationships, murky at first, whether we were friends or we were trying to date. But then that, we've finally actually talked about it and cleared it up, and started officially dating, and we dated... Trying to think, we got engaged pretty quickly. Okay.
That happens. You'll have that.
I'm trying to think. I met her in person. We had been talking for several months online, but in person, I think we met in June. Yeah, it was like around the beginning of June in 15? Sure. 2015.
So about 11 years ago.
2015, and we were engaged by that December.
Wow. Okay.
We got married 2 years. We'd been together for 2 years before we got actually married. But I think both. It was very funny. We were both two people that never thought we would get married, and here we are. So
that's beautiful. I really think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Next summer we'll be together 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I'm sorry to say wow. I'm not trying to say
Yeah.
anything about your guys'
No.
age. Well, that's awesome.
I was young.
Well, like I said,
I mean, I was in college, but yeah.
that's still pretty young. But
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, it worked. You guys are still together.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I guess
And
I was in graduate school when we got married, but yeah.
I also wanted to tell you two things I noticed when I was doing my research and scrounging, as I said. I noticed that every time I read up, and that's where I got a lot of your information, was from people. I believe one might have been a Spartan.
Yeah, there's been a couple Spartan articles.
You've never gotten a bad report.
Oh.
You've never gotten a bad report. I'm not trying to get sappy or.
That's not to say that there's not. I mean,
yeah,
whatever.
I'm not trying
but
to blow smoke.
no.
I just noticed that you're very passionate, and I don't know if you know Kayla Livingston. Kayla, if you're listening, sorry to put you on the spot, buddy, but I was talking to her before this, and because I posted the link, and I was like, hey guys, everyone on my Snap, please check out my show today. And I was talking to some people, and I was like, yep, first episode on air is going to be Professor Boyd. And they were all like, wow, she's so passionate about her job. She does a really good job when she teaches students. So sweet. And I think, what was it? The Many Sides of Sam article was where I got
Gonzo,
a lot of it.
yeah.
And there was also, I don't know if it was the same one or a different one by a student named something Gonzalez.
Yeah, that's Gonzo. Jacob Gonzalez. He was on the football team, graduated a couple years ago.
That was all glowing reports. Everything I checked was all glowing reports. And personally, I can say I don't know why I just started picking up SideQuest a few weeks ago, why I got into the Spartan. I was talking to Blow one day, and I said something to him. We were talking about, like, what I wrote my editorial on, identity politics. And I said, I don't get why a lot of people think I'm anti-white sometimes. I came out of a white woman. And I was raised by a white family. I have no ill fate towards white people. I lived near 99% white people my whole life.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, that's really powerful. You want to write it? And I was
that sounds like Dave.
Sure. I said, if you're asking,
yeah.
If you need another, and he was telling me they needed more articles. I said, I think I can articulate this somewhat intelligently. And then, obviously, I got into the communication minor just because I'm business and I didn't know what minor to do, and I've been loving it. And you and Professor Blow really kind of sparked that passion in me. When I did my pilot episodes of this and I did some interviews in people's houses and stuff, I really have been loving it. I've really loved this interview here. I love the process. And I figure even if no one listens, I'm getting better at communication skills, getting better at business articulation and things like that. And you guys do a very good job of transferring your passion into your pupils. And is that something, like, you've always kind of noticed teaching? Or, like, is that kind of just a byproduct of your work ethic?
That's a great question.
Sorry if that was wordy, but
no. I think that's a great question. I don't know if I have necessarily a solid answer for you, though, Dom. I don't know. I think I just, the things that I'm teaching, the things that I'm showing in class, the readings I'm assigning, they're all things generally that I'm really excited to talk about.
So it's never anything like you're never forcing yourself to teach something. It's you love, and I think that makes a difference. You're passionate about it all.
Yeah, I know. Occasionally, I'm sure there are things that as part of the process that I do have to teach because it's important and foundational that maybe is not as fun. But I try my best to, even the things that I don't necessarily find as fun, to try and find a way to make them fun. Am I successful every time? Absolutely not. But I do try my best because I think being excited in the classroom is what helps get students excited. Plus, we're making films. We're making art, right? Like, I think that's fun and it's beautiful and it's crazy and it can be messy. And, I like watching students go through that process of, finding their own creativity.
I think that's kind of also what I like about this format, the podcast / radio show format, is, I obviously come in with the notes. I showed you the notes. Yeah. But then, like, you mentioned your wife, and you get to, like, it's not just, like, why are you a teacher? How did you become a teacher? It's not just like that. It's very human. the interactions. And that's one of I'd say even my biggest flaws is I love to yap. I don't stop talking. And I know it sounds crazy, but I talk in my sleep. My girlfriend hates it. So if I can take that, what I normally refer to as a curse, and I can use it as a blessing to make beautiful things like this, and like you said, make art, I think that's a really beautiful outlet for my yappiness. And I think, again, you and Professor Blow do a great job of helping students channel that into it. And Professor Stephanie Wilson, I have a class with her too.
Nice.
She does a great job of stimulating students and using that what's the word, extrovertedness to push passion and to push art.
Yeah.
And that's something I notice again. I know I'm blowing smoke to you here, but you're like, when I read all your reports, that seemed to be the general consensus,
It's very sweet. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like it's really nice. I've been enjoying the communications.
Good.
I tell people, because when I first got here, people kind of dawned on communications. The way they talked about it, it was known as easy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will say a lot of the classes are easier, but it's like, it's a different type of hard. And they're easier for me right now because I'm in all 100,000 level comms classes. I haven't reached that higher level.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of hard. Like, yes, statistics is difficult.
Yes.
But, like, there's formulas. Like, when I do research, I can't just Google how to stimulate an intriguing conversation with you. I can't just chat GPT, like, how do I get, this guest to open up, or how do I approach asking them about sensitive, because some of it is sensitive topics, I don't want to offend you when I ask you what age you came out and stuff, but these are still things that I think are important for people to hear, and I think that communications, I think this is a very beautiful kind of field to study, because you also don't need internships to get experience. I mean, you do need internships.
I was going to say, for the program itself, you do need an internship.
Yes, but not,
or
not
senior
to get
project.
experience.
Like,
Like, you could go into the field, like, with an associate's degree. And to me, it looks like you could still be ready. Because, like, media writing, we still make a podcast. We still have to do multiple writing things with Professor Blow, like exercises for media writing.
Yeah.
And, I think it's one of the only fields, like you can't do that in a lot of fields. You can't just get an associate's in it and kind of know what you're doing. And, I mean, obviously it's not the same as doing the bachelor's and getting your, senior project and portfolio.
Yes.
Puts you in a much better position. But to me, like, I feel like this, because this is all skills I learned in class. The things I've applied here, the research, like, this is all stuff I had to do in media writing, and I don't think you get that a lot of places. Like, and, I know we only have a few minutes left, but I guess I'll finish with, why are you in communications? Why did you do film and then communications and stuff? Why are you in this field of study, in this whole realm?
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 degrees in filmmaking or cinema.
That's passion. You gotta love it.
It is something that I love. I, have loved for a long time, watching films, talking about films, making films, right? I don't know if I ever necessarily thought about me being part of a communications program. That was just kind of came with, I saw that there was a job opening here they were looking for a film production faculty member, and I had the, qualifications so I applied, and, lo and behold, we're a communications program. I actually love that we're a communications program and it's not just a film program, because you get to learn how to make films, but you also get to learn how to be a better writer and make podcasts and, analyze cinema and, give press, write press releases and learn how to take photos, right? There's so many different aspects to communications that I think, and graphic design, right? Like all of these things that I think are helping make students, not to toot our own horns, but like well-rounded to go out into the field and find jobs after they graduate. So that's why I love working here. I like all the different kind of disciplines that have come together to make up this communications program.
All right, and I think that's about roughly our time. I want to keep going, but I hope you'll come back sometime.
Sure.
This has been Dominici Lapierre with Professor Sam Davis Boyd for episode 1 of D3, Dominici's Discussions and Debates, your source of discourse, discord, and everything in between. Please stay tuned, as soon we'll have our Instagram and YouTube pages up active in the next few days, and we're trying to hammer down a solidified bi-weekly schedule. Right now we're thinking about sticking with 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, and we're working out either a Thursday or Friday time. But, the YouTube is going to have our pilot episodes posted that won't be aired via TuneIn, and some potential YouTube exclusive interviews and discussions. And thank you all for tuning in. I had a great time. Thank you for being here with me, Professor Boyd.
Yes, of course.
And,
Thank you, Dom.
hopefully see you guys all again soon.